Join us for the next Studio Sojourn, a podcast for all things real estate. Welcome. Welcome.
Hello, thank you. Thank you. So excited to be with you this morning.
Welcome to Studio Sojourn. I call it Studio Sojourn because it's a place where you can kick back and talk about all things that have to do with the industry of real estate. And we might even get into other things. Today, we're sitting down with Byrdie Hamilton of Savvy Insurance. Am I saying that correctly? Savvy Insurance?
Savvy Insurance Agency. Yes, ma'am, you got it right.
So for people, I know you a little bit. So for people who are meeting you for the very first time, please tell us, who is Byrdie Hamilton outside of Savvy Insurance?
Well, that's a great question. Outside of Savvy Insurance, I'm honored that I get to do things that I love from insurance. And then the other thing that I do is I do planning. All things logistics, being a detail person, it works well. Being a creative person, I'm able to be creative, be logistical, be detailed, all the things that are natural to my personality. I get to use all of those skills in everything that I do. Being able to, outside of that, of course, I have kids. I'm a new grandma, a new Mimi. Grandbaby's about to turn a year on the 28th. So just all the exciting things, loving life, living life, all of that stuff. So yes, that is me outside. I still use my creativity. I'm still detailed no matter what I'm doing, what sector it's in, what area I'm serving in. Serving right now currently on a nonprofit that has been amazing, awesome, and bringing me a lot of joy. So that's been totally amazing. So I get to do some awesome things in life. More importantly, things that I love, things that I enjoy.
So you and I met through real estate, of course, and because you are an insurance provider, you have been able to service not only me, but some of my clients and get them better rates than they were able to get anywhere else, which I really appreciate that partnership. It's a valuable partnership that I think a lot of agents really could, if they don't have it, they need somebody who can give their clients good rates. Um, but you said that you have some other creative endeavors. I'd love to learn more about that as well, but I don't want to get off into the weeds. I
No,
want to make sure that we hit the highlights about what you are doing and why this work is so important to what we do. What's the one thing, if I could ask you, what's the one thing that you wish people knew about insurance that would save them so much money or stress?
hmm. That's a tough question. One, because as consumers, and I can only think of it when once I became a licensed agent, I look at, man, there was so much I didn't know as a consumer. There's so much that a lot of times agents don't even tell us. A lot of times agents don't even offer us. So like you just said, we met through relationship. I love how we met. In the case of when you were working on a very hard case that you needed coverage for, I was like the underdog because you've been working with the larger companies and no one was able to place that risk. And so, as a consumer, it's tough to know because you find that oftentimes consumers just don't understand insurance. A lot of times they don't want to understand it. So the most important, if there could be a most important thing, I would say building a relationship with an agent. Because of technology, AI, all the things that we have, a lot of times people want to go online and try to do a lot of things themselves. And then they end up having to come back to an agent to fix the things that didn't go right. So in building relationships, those things that consume as a consumer that you don't understand, your agent should be there because they value you. They value, having your business, as a part of their business, being one of their clients. They make sure that they take good care of you. For me, it's top notch. My motto is exceptional care and trusted service. And it's not just about the sale. It's not just about making, making sure that you get clients and you bring clients in and you sell them that one time and it's over with. But it's that relationship that if there's something that you need and you know it personally, you don't have to go into your app. You can if you want to. There are people who do that, who are self sufficient. But if you need something, all you got to do is pick up the phone, send an email, send a text, and I'm on top of whatever that is you need. So I would say building a personal relationship with an agent so that you're not making the costly mistakes that consumers make by trying to do things on their
Ooh, you said a mouthful there. I mean, because in our business, in our shared industry,
own.
if
Exactly.
people would just trust the professionals that are here to help, this is what we came to do. It's funny because when people need surgery, they don't try to perform it on themselves.
You're
They
right.
don't go to their grandma and try to get surgery. They may ask a few questions, but for the most part, they really put their hands in their body in the hands of a doctor who they've never even met.
That's true.
They don't even know,
You're
and
right.
they will allow their body to be cut open um, by a professional because they trust that doctor. But
Ex-
it's something about sales and the industry that we're in. People have so many doubts, and if they would just trust. So I think that you said a mouthful there is like trust the professionals who are working with you because they really do have your best interests. I know some people there are some scam artists out there, but
For
get
sure.
to know your industry professional, and they'll definitely be happy to lead you in the right direction. I'm really happy that we're having this conversation today. One, it is Martin Luther King Day, so
Yes.
huge
Happy
shout
Martin
out to
Tuesday. Okay, Day.
MLK Day. And I love that we can talk about your business because you are a woman owned business, Black owned, woman owned business. And that speaks volumes. And because you're multi talented and you're able to do so many things that assist people, like you were mentioning, your nonprofit organization as well. Um, it's a huge nod to Dr. King and his vision, I think, to be able to sit here today, even though in 2026 we still have so many challenges.
Man.
So,
We could go off on a tangent on that alone. Yeah, tangent on that
or
alone.
Dr. Martin Luther, he would be worn out today if how
Mhm.
many marches would he have to lead today if he was still around? But I think it still speaks volumes about his vision for where we are. We might be moving a lot slower than he might have envisioned, or maybe he envisioned that it would go this slowly. But I think that just to know that we are walking in his vision
Absolutely.
is beautiful. I think that we may not get there together, but
That right.
we are definitely on the road.
His
Um,
entire dream may not be fulfilled, but at least parts and pieces of it are, we're starting to move in the right direction. We're
there
moving.
is movement. We are seeing the needle move.
Yeah, it's moving.
We are seeing
Not,
the
like I said, not at the level of speed that any of us would probably want, but
right,
thank God we are still moving, seeing some progress.
right. Um, when did it click for you that you weren't just doing a job? Or when did it click for you that you needed to, maybe you were in a job? Tell me maybe about that. Like, when did you realize that you wanted to go deeper into helping people?
Well, it's honestly, that's something I've done all my life. You just kind of switch lanes as to how you're able to help people. Because I have a former background in ministry, being a pastor's wife years ago. And so that's kind of always been the thing that I've always done. It's been a part of my blood. It's just who I am as a person naturally to help people. So that part of it was easy. Being able to do it in this industry was interesting. And how I got into the industry altogether was being a stay-at-home mom, an entrepreneur. Like I said, coming up in ministry, that's a lot of what I did. And once my kids started to get older, I realized that I needed to do something for me. And without a large educational background because I didn't go to college, didn't have a degree, and I'm now almost 40 years old and starting late in a career with no experience. It was tough to find a job. So I got into the industry because I found a company and he told me, he said, "You go get your license." He said, "I'll hire you." And so that's how I got into insurance. And I just kind of built from there. Started not even, I started with property and casualty with what I do now. I added that years ago. I started in health. And then I just desired to build on that because I realized there were so many different, you kind of get in and you see there's so many different types of insurances. So helping people has come second nature for me. It's just been the arenas that I'm able to help. So I'm grateful for that.
What a testimony. So I heard so many things that we could branch off into so many conversations. One, just being a pastor's wife, I'm sure that had so many layers of experience, but to also be able to um, work in a profession that you weren't required to have a degree, and you were still able to be a parent and wear both hats. I really get that. I can relate to that so much. That's so very similar to my experience when it comes to like just wanting to find something to do that is both fulfilling and still not give up any time with your child. Being a mom, that's your number one job, right?
No, it was important. Mhm.
Very important. Very important. So when it comes to most buyers, what do you think that they're getting wrong when it comes to home insurance? Are they over insuring, under insuring, going to not asking enough questions, not interviewing enough people? What do buyers need to know that they're getting wrong?
So when it comes to home insurance particular, um, I would say it's home insurance is not particularly that difficult. It's coverages a lot of times. And a lot of times you don't know what you don't know. So you don't know what coverages you need to have in your home. And a lot of times those are small things that you can add on to a policy that may not be standard. You got personal liability, we all know those kind of things. You got the value of the home, making sure that it's valued properly just based off of how your agent is kind of building your quote for you. So those things, those are natural things that we see in a policy that shows up on a declaration page that a consumer can easily read. So the biggest, if I had to say, I don't know. It's tough to say mistake in that, other than just really making sure that you're adequately covered from the value of your home, which is coverage A, what they're pricing that, and because now, as you know, with the economy being where it is, inflation, things are really hitting where the values are. What you're paying and the value is totally different numbers. So making sure that that value is where it is, where it needs to be, because all of that does is, in the case of a total loss of your home, that would be what you would be able to get back to be able to replace that home. Can you rebuild that home? With that 300,000 that they're valuing it at, because appraisal values, all these different values, there's so many different numbers that you're working with. So make sure you have adequate coverage there. If there are any additional coverages that you may need in the home, equipment breakdown, things that would add an extra layer of protection, because a lot of times, consumers don't realize that they need different things like that and how it would help cushion their pockets if things happen to the home and they're not having to come out of pocket. Because people say, and I get this all the time, "Oh, insurance is a scam." It's Policies are more catastrophic, especially a home policy. And if I could say this, I'd definitely love to share this, especially for consumers listening. And one of the biggest mistakes that I see is not even in the purchasing process, is when claims come to the home. So you have that. Most of the time, we got that deductible anywhere from 1,000 to maybe 2,500, just depending on what a consumer can afford. What you often see consumers do, they feel like, "Oh, this is insurance. I pay for it. Every little thing that happens in your house, you're filing against your insurance." So outside of the purchase process, which like I said, is not a terribly difficult process other than adding your additional coverage. The biggest mistakes I see is when it comes to claims, because those things follow you for years. Sometimes people think, oh, they have additional properties, second homes, those things, because you're the insured, follow you as well. And they don't realize how that impacts your premium, because everybody's trying to go in with a low premium when they're getting it, especially because you're buying a house. You want to keep your payment, and all of these things do affect what your payment is going to be at the end of the day, that bottom line. So making sure that things like that are taken care of, that, listen, don't file every little single thing that goes wrong with that house. As a consumer, it's your investment. So it's important to make sure that you got some funds, some emergency funds, some money stacked somewhere, so that you can take care of things in that home, and don't feel like everything you're filing on insurance, because it's going to follow you. It's going to increase your premiums. And if you do a lot of things that are can be tough, it sometimes you can even make it hard for you to even get insurance with other companies. So yeah, outside of the purchasing process, the biggest thing I see is claims.
I'm so glad you spoke about that because I think when I first became home insured, I was still a renter, and I was using renter's insurance. And even though I proudly represent North Carolina today, I still represent California. Los Angeles is where I'm from. Well, so I was a renter
Yeah, I
in
love.
California, and we had an electrical storm, and my computer went out, and I had computer insurance through my renter's insurance, and I filed a claim about that. And I didn't realize, this was many, many years ago. I didn't realize that filing that little claim for a computer that I probably could replace for a few $100 at the time had catastrophic consequences on the back end. And I'm like, oh man, I could have just replaced that computer instead of filing a complaint, a claim on that computer. So, um, anyways, I think that's important to understand. Like, not every little thing is deserves an insurance claim, and I think that's something consumers don't know. We like, it would be nice to have a list like, file a claim about this, but not that. File a claim about this, but not that, because it would. You don't know. You do believe, hey, I'm paying for it. I should go ahead and use it, but
It's a grave, it's the greatest consumer mistake that I see. And
yeah.
this is the other part of where relationship comes in. Because the thing I do love about my clients, a lot of times I do try to tell them things like that. If you got $1,000 deductible, if what you're claiming is less than your deductible, you need to be paying that yourself out of pocket. Don't feel like, oh, okay, I got this policy, bam, I'm just going to file. I like to share that a lot of times in the process. And then a lot of times clients will call before they even file a claim. And I appreciate it. I can help them, of course, in the process, make sure that they get the numbers, whatever the case may be. And I kind of walk through claims and make sure that things are kind of going well with my clients. That's the difference when we're talking about AI or all this online stuff versus, what a relationship looks like. So they call me and I'm like, I wouldn't file that. Try take if you can take care of that out of pocket. So I try to guide people on, and a lot of times it'll open up that conversation. Like, what would you consider? What kind of things do I need to file? Think catastrophic stuff that I just, if it's too big for me to handle, it's okay to take the claim, to take the risk. Yes, it may affect you going down the line, but if it's something that you can't pay for, that's what insurance is best used for. The small things, like a computer or, something small that happens in our home, we're better off at the end of the day taking care of those things ourselves.
I love that you said, call me and ask,
Mhm.
because that's one of the things that I do really appreciate, that I can pick up the phone and call you when I need to call you. And I think that that's a really great thing, to have a personal relationship with your insurance provider, so that you can ask, is this something I should be filing a claim about, or should I not? So I think that's really, really good. And that's why we love working with you. Um, so think catastrophic. In North Carolina, there are situations where we have windstorms, Fortunately, knock on wood, I don't think since I've lived here in 12 or 14 years, our area has not been gravely affected by hurricanes.
That's great.
But we do get the residual effects from those hurricanes. We get winds, we get a lot of rain. Um, is there anything that people should know to prepare or to what are some things that you think about as an insurance provider when we get these weather alerts?
Well, the biggest thing, and this may sound crazy, is to first make sure that you have insurance coverage because you'd be surprised as a consumer. You have to first get it when you buy it because you know that the mortgage company is requiring you to do that for closing, all of those things. But sometimes in the process, things happen and people let their policies go. And so what you find is two things, especially if you have a mortgage on the house, the mortgagee is going to do forced place coverage. And let me say this, uh, forced place coverage is not for the consumer. If your mortgage company is placing coverage on your home because for whatever reason you feel like you can't afford it, it's getting tough for you to pay, and you let your coverage go, that coverage is designed to protect them as the mortgagee and not you. If something were to happen when you're under a forced place policy, it's going to cover their investment, the house itself, the framework. It's not going to take care of any of your personal property, anything that you have. So first and foremost, keep an insurance policy on that house. We there are things that we fight for and things that we sacrifice for. If there's one thing that you should be sacrificing for, it is definitely your homeowner's insurance. Never find yourself, if you can help it, under a force, because one, not only is it not good for you as the consumer because it doesn't protect you, it protects the lender. It's always more expensive, so you're going to be paying more for it than you could pay for a traditional policy that you could buy on your own as a consumer. So make sure that you have coverage because it breaks my heart sometimes. I'm glad that I'm able to find coverage for people, but the amount of people that don't even have insurance coverage. So have insurance
Mhm.
coverage. Okay. Make sure that that's one thing that you have in place so that if something happens, and there are some things, like you said, we're not going to be able to protect ourselves from. We can't protect ourselves from wind, but when you got the coverage, you know that one way or the other, if you are affected by the storm, you know that one way or the other, something that maybe, like I said, something that you can pay for yourself to get repaired, replaced, refixed on your house, or if you need to file a claim, you have that insurance there on your side to help you out. So that's the biggest thing because it's amazing how when storms come, it can hit one house, skip two or three, and hit the next one. So I wish I could say that there are ways to safeguard, but safeguard yourself from scams and people coming around trying to, if you do have damage, you have to protect it from further damage. If it's a roof, or, you get a hole, something that may cause further damage, you have to fix that yourself as a consumer until the insurance companies and all adjusters, all those can get to you. So just understanding those small things, but having a policy in place that will work if you need it instead of the opposite, having to pay a lot out of pocket because something does happen in these different seasons that we have, and you're stuck as a consumer. Because this is another thing I'll say, and then I'll give it back to you about North Carolina. That's crazy about our state. We say this, if you live in North Carolina, how crazy our weather is, how we can go from summer to winter and we have 4 seasons in one week. The other thing that's crazy is the weather patterns. Like most states, Florida, they're used to hurricanes, like you talked about hurricanes, but because of the mudslides, the thing that happened in Asheville, we have mudslides, we have tornadoes, we have hurricanes, we have windstorms. We see about 4 to 5 weather patterns in our state normally.
Mm.
So to not be covered is because we just never know. I don't know what it is about North Carolina. We stuck here in the middle. We have crazy weather patterns, how our weather acts, but then we also have now become subject to so much more because we see, and it's not many states and this may sound crazy, but as a consumer, this is important. There are not many states that see all the weather patterns that we see. To find
Mm.
yourself not covered in any season, because you go from, hurricane to tornado to all these different seasons, and we have these crazy pop-up storms. It's crazy not to be covered. I hate to say it that way. It's not wise. Let me say it
That's
that way.
interesting. I didn't realize that North Carolina has so many weather patterns.
I just learned this last year.
Wow.
Mhm.
You also mentioned something that I found interesting. You said be careful not to be scammed. And in today's world market where you can shop for things online, can you maybe shed some light on why what's the different or what's the misconception about using a broker versus shopping online? What can you shed some light on that?
Absolutely. So the difference is sometimes you may not. So I talked about coverages because you were talking about the mistakes that consumers make. So if you're trying to do it online yourself, you don't understand what those coverages mean. You probably see them on your declaration page. If you're doing quotes, and you're trying to compare, because a lot of times people, the first thing they want to do is apples to apples. They want something similar to what they already have because they feel like it's been working for them. So you can give those numbers and you can share that information with an agent, but you yourself don't understand what that means. And you can find a policy that may not adequately cover your home just because a premium sounds good. And this is the other thing. A lot of times you may get there are premiums before your reports are pulled, and then there are premiums after your reports are pulled. If you
Mm,
have claims history, or if you, in the case of when you're first purchasing, of course, your credit has to be at a great place because, of course, you got to have a great credit score and things have to be where they need to be for you to close. But if you're been in a home for a couple of years, you may have started buying things may have happened on your credit. When you pull that report, what you see when you're first doing that may not be what you end up paying at the end of the day. If you're not paying this out of pocket versus mortgagee billing it, those type of things can get complicated for a consumer because you guys don't understand how to do that. There again, you talked about trust in the process. Allow your professionals to do that because there are things that you're going to miss. You may not. I get calls all day, every day from consumers, not even ones that I've written business for, and they've done something online. Oh, I didn't get my documents. They don't know who their agent actually. Well, you don't have an agent if you bought online. You really have no help. You have no assistance. You have nobody you can pick up the phone and say, "Hey, I got a claim going on. I got something going on with my payment. Payment didn't go through. Can you make sure that this or that happens?" You have nobody to help you maneuver when there are things that you can't handle on your own. You have no help. So that's the other part. Well, I didn't get my sign. They couldn't tell you what carrier they're with. There's a lot of times I can't help people because they don't know what company they went with, which is scary. You didn't get any documentations. You didn't sign anything, but you got coverage, but they took your money because you're looking at your bank account and you're seeing that whatever it was that you were supposed to pay is now gone from your account, but you don't know who to call.
mhm.
And that's scary as a consumer. And those mistakes happen all the time online because it's not a seamless process where you have somebody that says, "Hey, I didn't get this," or "This document, I tried to sign it, it didn't happen." I can help you fix, your account so that you can do your electronic signatures, so that you get the documentation you need to supply to, in your case, when you've got closings, to either to your realtor or to the bank or whatever the case may be. But when you do it online, you're not guaranteed that that process is going to be perfect. There are going to be loopholes because I don't care how good we're saying AI is. Yes, it's good for certain things, but there are certain things that it cannot do. It can never replace presence, that personal touch, that relationship that you can have with an agent.
I agree. I say the same thing about real estate. It's sure you could shop online. There are processes that you can do yourself. Some companies even allow you to punch in a code and view the home yourself. But if you are not experienced in purchasing, or even if you are experienced in purchasing, but maybe you haven't purchased something like this, or in this particular situation, I just think that it's so risky
It is.
to go into it yourself and not have someone who sees homes. I mean, I see homes like an assembly line, like I see them all the time. And so to be able to go into a home and while they're oohing and eyeing, or sometimes they're, looking with a microscope, trying to really investigate the home. But a lot of times I'm looking at something totally different than what they're seeing. I'm checking to see if they like the home, but I'm also checking for things that might come up in the home inspection or be an insurance flag. Who knew that having a pool could sometimes change your quote? And I'm noticing that newer homes that are being built are coming with pools. And I don't know if it's because we're getting people from out of state that have pools where they came from that are coming to North Carolina, or if the home prices just, call for that. But a lot of new homes that I'm seeing being built in the triangle and triad are now having pools in the back. And I was like, oh, that's different. We didn't really see that in North Carolina before. But now more often there's a pool in the back.
And the crazy thing is, as a consumer, you don't know what the guidelines that have to be in place to even get coverage, the proper coverage on it, about your fence, about how high that has to be, because this is called a public nuisance now because you have a pool. It puts you in a different category from insurance. So, consumers need to trust the professional eye versus their amateur eye, because just like you said, there are going to be things that you're going to miss. I don't care how many homes you've bought. Like you said, the times are different. There could be a loan or something that they could qualify for that they may never know. There could be things, some claims history on that house that could affect their insurance premiums if you don't have a person. Your price may be very high online and you don't even understand why, because you're getting hit for claims that weren't even yours, and you don't have an experienced person that's able to go in and help take those off and bring your premium back down. So it's those things where consumers feel like they know so much, those do-it-yourselfers that feel like, oh, I can get this done because I don't want to have to pay no realtor, no commission, no insurance agent. It's built into your premium for the most part, unless you're at a point where you're charging fees. But to avoid the mistakes, and then for you to be able to tell them something that they did not know about the property, what they could do, how they could work or maneuver something that was not on script, wasn't on the paper, didn't show up in anything that they looked at. I don't understand why. I have this thing that I'm getting ready to share and talk about. The cleanup most of the time is worse than the initial mistake. And people don't realize that. And a lot of times when you go try to avoid the process, you try to avoid the professionals and trying to do things yourself, you make mistakes that are harder to clean up as a realtor, or harder to clean up as an insurance agent on the back end, because you didn't trust the process.
I mean, you just listen, you were a preacher's wife, but I think that you might be a preacher yourself, because that is a whole message right there.
I
I
am.
mean, but such is life. I think we make mistakes and then we spend more time cleaning up the mistakes. I was just talking to a young friend of mine. By the way, I love having young friends. I do. I love having young friends. But I was just speaking to a young friend of mine the other day, and I was telling her that like the 20s is where everything is just like, picture the 20s as being like a messy room. Like everything is all over the place. Your clothes are all over the place. You don't know what's going on in your 20s. And then in the 30s, you start to hang up some of your items and you're like, okay, this is what I'm going to keep. This is what I'm going to throw out. But you spend too much time just looking in your 30s.
You're
In
right.
your 40s, you're like, you know what? I'm just gonna put this on.
That part.
Okay. then, you, then you get to your 50s and you're like, I wore this yesterday. Well, it worked yesterday. I'm gonna wear it again today.
That part. You didn't see it. Nobody else saw it. Me in it. So who cares, right? No, you're right. Those decades are so important when it comes to how we see things, and how we
Right.
view things, and what's priority and what's not as important as it used to be. That
Right.
makes total sense. My friend told me, and I'm like, man, it makes sense. You know how we have clothes in our closet and we save them for special occasions? You do that when you're younger. But
You
man,
do that
listen,
when you're
life.
old.
And you sometimes you do, but life is to be lived every day. Why save it? Because at the rate that people have left here, we never know how long we have, and we could be saving something that we may not ever get a chance to wear because we don't know what this thing is going to look like. So every day should be an occasion that's worth
Right. Girl, put the
living.
dress on. Wear
Put
the
it
dress.
on, honeys. Take the picture, post it, do whatever you
Take
got
the
to do,
picture. Wear
and
the dress.
wear it again at some point, a different occasion. But yeah, life is to be lived, and,
That's
and
right.
we
That's
need to
right.
quit waiting and making stuff for special occasions.
I love that we had this little kiki for a moment because that sort of lets us go into the next thing that I wanted to ask you about, which is more personal
Okay.
and like as far as like being a business owner, what type of ups and downs have you experienced? And I guess that's a big broad question, but I guess what I'd like to know is like what did success look like then versus what it looks like now? How many years have you been doing this now?
So in March, it'll be 5 years in
5
property and
years.
casualty alone.
Hmm.
Um, and then overall, my it's been 9 years in my total career from when I started insurance until now, five
So
years
a
in
decade. You've
casualty.
collected a decade of experience.
Ooh, when you look at it like that, yes, ma'am, you are right. It's almost been a decade, Jesus. It
Almost
has
a decade,
almost
not
been a
quite.
decade.
Almost a decade. But in that time, I think that's enough time to really say like what did success look like in the beginning for you versus what does it look like now as you approach your next year or of 10 years?
Well, that's an amazing question. And it really makes me think about because of course, being the top of the year, being that it's January, this is the time where you set your goals for what you want your year to look like. And because I am a believer, I'm talking to God about my plans as to what I'm going to do, what this year is going to look like. Because I got a question last year, about how I was going to scale, and I couldn't answer that. I had written down my goal as to what I wanted to do from a premium standpoint, for my entire agency for the year with all the products, but I didn't have a way to get there.
Hmm.
And when I thought about it, the Bible says that God says, I know the plans that I have for you, thoughts and plans of peace of evil to give you and of good and not of evil to give you an expected end. And I was like, that's okay, God. Well, I need help with a plan. I said, because I got a goal, but I don't have a plan for the goal. And this is what he shared with me, and it made so much sense. And it's going to make sense as I share with you what he shared with me. He said, hunger. So in the beginning of my business, especially when I started property and casualty, I didn't even start out as a broker. I had an Allstate agency that I opened up that I had for about a year and a half. It took a lot to do that. And this was around when COVID hit, when companies we were working from home, but at that point they had gotten rid of a lot of their support. I was new to property and casualty. I've been in insurance, but I was new to property and casualty. So I'm learning. I had a staff and I'm trying to teach and sell and learn with no support except for tech support. And that was very hard. And I had large, large goals to meet. As a captive Allstate agent, you have to sell a lot to maintain an agency. And so there were goals that we had to meet. And so one of the things I had to do was there were things that I did then in my business to grow it that I realized that I don't do anymore. And so the word hunger, he gave me the word hunger, he said, because he told me to go back to some of those things that I do, that I did then because I was hungry. I sold different. Even as I look at some of the things that I did from a service perspective, because I didn't have as many clients, I serviced different. And so he's really challenged me to go back to those things that I used to do when I was hungry and I had to build. I had no choice but to build. And you get a little bit comfortable as you get more clients, you got a larger book of business that you're overseeing. It's easy to get comfortable and not do all of the things because you have more people to deal with, you have more things that you have to deal with. But he's telling me now, go back to those things go back to when you had nobody on the books, when you looked at your numbers and they were at zero and you're thinking, how in the world am I going to build this to where they are today? I was hungry. everything that you can be. Sorry. And you can be to be greedy is not good, but to be hungry is a thing that God tells us that we can be. So he's like, get that hunger back that you had. It's kind of like going back to your first works, how it was when you first started. So that's the thing that he's really challenged me on, is to go back to being hungry, because there were things that I did in my business when I first started out that I've gotten away from. Definitely I'm going back to the place of where I was when I first started, picking up the habits, the things that I did, the and I'll still go the extra mile for my clients, don't get me wrong. But there was a level of, at that point, that I did then in the beginning as I was building that, a place where I'm not. And I just, for me, I understand I got to go back to doing those things that I did when I first started.
Back to basics.
Back to the basics.
I
Mhm.
think that business owners sometimes forget, and I'm so glad that you put it so eloquently, that your business grew and you had all these demands as an Allstate agent, and quotas and things that you had to meet, to the point where you kind of got caught up in the hustle. And then your conversation with God told you to come back and just do the basics. I try to share that with myself as well as my team all the time, because the basics is how you get there. It is literally the elevator that takes you to the top.
That's so true.
And if we forget how we got there, none of us have a Superman cape on where we just fly up to the top. We literally have to either walk up the steps, take the elevator, walk, crawl, something to get to where we're going. And if we forget those things, um, the it will definitely change. You will find that your business, it's nice to know that you have referral business. It's nice to know that your business is plateauing, but there are things that we have to do. To how you get them is how you keep them. And I often refer to business as like a relationship. Well,
Wow.
real estate is like a relationship anyways. It's a relationship business. And so I try to often convey that it's just like any other relationship. There's a courting phase. There's a phase where you have to give it all of your attention. There's a phase where you have to nurture it and date it. And it's a relationship. And at any given point, if you take your attention away from it and you're no longer focused on it, or you're cheating on it, so to speak, it will suffer. It will suffer. And
You're
I
right.
think that if you can look at your business as another member of your family, and I warn people too when they get into this business. I say, please sit down with your family members and have a conversation, because it's just like bringing anybody else into your family. You
Wow.
wouldn't bring an adopted child into your family without talking to the family. You wouldn't bring any other member into the family without having a conversation. You are now going to divide your attention, and this other being is going to absorb some of your attention. And now we are all in relationship with this other thing. So, yeah, it's a bit consuming, when
Hmm.
you have to get back to the basics and remember that, like, I've got to court my clients. I've got to talk to them and see how they're doing. And I have a particular client that I enjoy them. I enjoy them so much. They first of all, they were clients of mine in my early career, and they are just joyful people, and they have a joyful child, and I just love them so much. And I've helped them several times, and they're sort of plateauing. So I hadn't talked to them in a long time. And a friend reminded me, a friend of mine was like, "How are they doing?" And I said, "I feel bad."
Right.
And so I sent them a message just before the weekend, and they didn't get back to me right away. And I was crossing my fingers, like a relationship, right? Just like a relationship. I was like, I didn't call right back right away. I didn't get that call back. I was wondering, did they forget about me? I mean, it's literally just like a relationship. So I'm sitting by the phone for a couple of days wondering, oh God. And anyways, they did end up replying back, and they said the same thing. And it was nice. We kind of had a good conversation. But That's what I mean, that it's even those basic things about just how are you doing? How's everything? If you forget to do that, you run the risk of losing a client, losing your business, and possibly even losing a friend, a relationship that could be very important. So those basic steps are very
No,
important.
that makes sense. And it's the things that you have to do because you have to find ways to set yourself and your business aside from anybody else. Because realtors, insurance agents, they come a dime a dozen. But what are we doing it differently?
Mhm.
And there again, it goes back to what we've been saying the entire time, relationship. One of the small things that I do every year, I send my clients a Christmas card, because I don't, like you said, you don't get to pick up the phone and talk to them every day. Not that you haven't forgotten them, maybe you hadn't thought about them in a while, whatever the case may be. But I now have people who look forward to those cards.
I got mine.
And it was so funny. Yay. I had a client, she was at renewal on a policy and she needed to call me, and she said, I didn't get my card this year. She said her daughter or somebody else who I had business with through her did. And she said
Mhm.
it was rubbing in her face. She was like, She said, I'm too mad about it. She's an older lady too. So as I'm sitting there talking to her, I had some cards left.
Uh-huh.
I I said it's late, but I'm still gonna give her. She's gonna get her Christmas card because that meant something to her. Okay, she's been with me for a long time, and I don't know how I missed her.
Mhm.
But so for whatever reason I did, so I sent it out late, and then we talked again, and she was like, "I got my card." That it was a small thing, but it's those small things that you have to do. It's a little touch for me. It's the touch points that say, even though we haven't talked, I may not talk to you at every renewal that you have, you're still with me. So I just want you to know that I value you. So you have to do those things to make connections
And
one way or
and
the other.
don't let perfection be the enemy of good,
Mm,
because even though you were late sending the card out, she still felt the love. She still, and
yeah,
it encouraged you guys to have another conversation.
absolutely.
And in business, that's what we want to have, is these conversations and build relationship and stay top of mind. So um, I think that that was beautiful. Like, send the card late, wear
Send
the
it late.
dress, and send the
With
card late.
send the card late. Don't wait for an occasion.
Don't
Listen,
wait
where,
for an occasion.
okay?
Send the card
And
late.
even if it's late, just send the card, because it's that thing that's going to say, hey, I may not talk to you, but I still remember you. Birthday card, anything that you could do, text on a client on their birthday, anything small. I call them touch points, because I don't want you, because when you're at renewal and you may be looking at, okay, maybe my premium is higher, maybe I don't want to shop it, but I've at least heard from my agent maybe once, maybe not through a text, but, or maybe not through a phone call, but maybe she's texted me. Maybe I've gotten an email from her, some way, somehow. And that is the thing that sets you aside. Like, I don't want another agent who I'm never going to hear from. I'm just another number, just another client, just somebody else there in their book, and they don't care anything about me. So those small things, along with all the other things that I realize I got to get back to, that's one of those things that I'm gonna make sure that I make priority. That some way, somehow, if I'm not calling you because we're touching base because we have to fix things on your policy, I've got to find some way to touch you and let you know that as an agent, I'm still here. I still value you and I appreciate your businesses. Now you're not just a number.
That's awesome. Um, Finish this sentence for me. A good insurance broker is.
Good insurance broker is always there. And when I say always there, it doesn't mean like what you just said. It may take me, I may not get back to you today. But if you've reached out to me, that means that you need something. So I want to make sure that I prioritize you enough to get back with you, because I hear this oftentimes from people who are there again, who are not even my clients, but they're just fussing because they can't get people to answer the phone. They can't get people to respond. Um, And that's huge to a consumer. When you're in a relationship, when you don't know what you're doing and you're trusting this person, the other side, the indictment against that relationship would be, you say we're in a relationship, but I need you, and you're not there for me. And at the end of the day, that's what every client needs. They need someone who is there, who's going to show up, who's going to return a call, who's going to return an email, whatever the case may be. If I reach out to you, if I need you, I need to know that you're going to be there. Even if it's not today, if it's tomorrow when you reach back out to me, or if you say, hey, my schedule is too busy, I can't get to you today. Give me a day or give me 2 days. I'm on vacation. I'll make sure that you know if you've touched me, that you're going to hear back from me, even if it's not right away. So I just have to make it my point and my priority in the midst of everything else that I'm doing in the business while I'm working on the business, that if you're part of you're one of my clientels, you're part of my business, that I have to be there for you when you need me. I can't become a ghost uh agent.
That's right.
um I can't ghost you. Like you said, in how in relationships are, I can't now ghost you because I done got you, we in good, and now I don't have to show up. Absolutely not. You need me now. When you need me, you need me. So I need to prioritize being there for you when you need.
Awesome. What's next for you in 2026?
Is For me right now, it's a transitional season. It's one of those things where I'm looking to scale. I'm going to be going, for me, I'm going to go harder. And that may sound like, when you look at all of the different things that I do, from being in insurance, being a planner, now working with a nonprofit, being a mom, a grandma, like, how in the world are you going to, when do you have time to go harder? I'm going to go harder. And it will also look like, in all the things that I do, but the person that I'm going to show up the most for this year in all of that is me.
I love it.
And I kind of made up my mind. I haven't gotten away as much as I needed to. Having the flexibility that I have with all the entrepreneurial things, I haven't taken enough time for myself to do, because I have been building and I'm going to continue to build others. But in the midst of building others, what it looks like is I'm going to make sure that the main thing stays the main thing, which is me. So I'm doing things, and I've already started doing, and it feels crazy. And this is going to sound crazy, but I'm going to share it anyway. So I I work out, so I don't wear tennis shoes a lot just in my normal repertoire, but I'm finding that I'm kind of changing a little bit. I wear more sweats and, more tennis shoes. And I have never bought myself a brand name pair of tennis shoes in my life. Of course, because I have kids. Most people wear Air Force Ones, the Jordans, the Nikes. They do that all the time, but I never have. I've had tennis shoes, some Asics, some basic type of tennis shoes. But it was something that I wanted, because transition, things about me changing, my wardrobe changing. And so I bought myself two pair of brand name tennis shoes, Nikes. And
Oh,
while it's not a
this
big,
is this. I love this.
want it. I
I
want it. I had to do that for myself, because, okay, as I'm out here in my sweats and, trying to be comfortable, cute, because I'm a girly type girl, I'm like, hey, what is wrong with you wearing a brand name? You work hard. Why not make sure that the things that you want, you're helping provide things that people want for everybody else. But in the midst of you doing that and being all that you are to everything that you are something to, you cannot forget to be what you need to be to you. So I'm being more intentional this year with all that I'm doing, all the ramping up that my goals are really causing me to have to do. I'm going to also make sure that I prioritize myself.
I love that for you. I love that on so many levels. I just love that you're choosing you. I love that. I'm not a tennis shoe girly either. In fact, when I wear them, my people around me are like, what are you even doing? I don't even really know how to lace them because I'm really not a tennis shoe girly, but
I'm
I
already
want to be and I need to be because, but anyways, I'm so happy that we had this conversation. Please tell everyone how they can support your business and how they can connect with
absolutely. So I'm on Facebook under let's see. I just realized that my business page is gone, which I got to figure out what is going on with that. But you can
you.
find me on Facebook under my real name, which is Byrdzetta Hamilton. You'll see information about me personally. You'll see my businesses there. You'll find Savvy Insurance Agency, and you'll also find Savvy Planning Solutions, which is for me, I say I'm all things savvy. And savvy means simply to know and to understand. And that's always been my goal, whether it's planning or insurance, to always know and understand what my clients need and be that person who can provide and help meet their needs. So you can find me there, Facebook. You can find me on Instagram under Savvy Insurance, as well as Savvy Planning. And you can also reach me. I have a website, www.savvyinsuranceagency.com, or by phone at 336-510-7800, an easy number. I'm looking forward to being here for you, helping service you and meet all of your insurance needs.
Awesome. I will also include those points of contact in the link below so that anybody can go directly from this video to reaching out to you right away. Byrdie, thank you. Thank you so much. I think we have so many unfinished conversations. We probably need to leave here and go have a nice cup of coffee or some dinner somewhere in our
Do it.
fancy tennis shoes or
Hello? Yes, in our tennis shoes.
Well, thank you so much for joining us at Studio Sojourn, and I wish you the best in 2026.
Thank you again so much for having me, and I wish you nothing but the best in this year as well.